Hello and welcome to part 2 of the 2021 New Zealand Grocery State of the Nation from Shopper Intelligence, giving you the ingredients you need to put shoppers at the heart of the conversation so you can plot a path to growth and better relationships with your trading partners. My name's David Shukri, and leading the charge as always in New Zealand is Country Manager Andrew Arnold. How are you doing, my friend?
Very good, David. How are you?
Very good, sir. Very good indeed. Now, as we come to the end of another extraordinary year, you're possibly in a state of flux in many areas of your life, and the same applies to grocery shoppers. So it's never been more important to really understand their behavior so that you can influence the direction that your category goes in and take the lead in the market. Now, to help you get there, we've broken this down into 3 sections, 3 big focus areas. In part 1, we covered value and the trusted quality dynamic. As important as price is, there are other factors in the value equation that you need to be aware of today. You can catch that video through Shopper Intelligence website. In this video, part 2, we're exploring the occasion mindset, how the mindset of the shopper today varies hugely depending on their intended occasion or mission, what that shopper demands, and how you retail to that need. In the third and final part of the series, we'll head on into omnichannel retailing, that latest buzzword and what it really means for you and your business. We'll share a framework and an approach to help steer your category investment. So on with part 2 then, occasions, missions, mindsets, and how this makes a difference to how you should retail. Andrew.
Thank you, David. So it is pretty clear that there are a significantly higher number of people who are doing things differently in grocery now compared to even just a few years ago, or even just before COVID happened. Pop-up shopping is a factor which has been gaining a lot of importance in recent years. Now, even though COVID-19 has acted as a wee bit of a handbrake on that, but as soon as things get back to a relatively normal state of affairs, top-up shopping is going to simply be back to where it was. But I'm not going to focus too much on top-up shopping today. I'm going to focus on 3 other factors that we really need to be paying attention to, because these are going to have a really significant impact on how we should be retailing in grocery in the coming years. Now, the first one, this is all about shopping for an occasion. What we have now is effectively 2/3 of all shoppers are now buying with a specific occasion in mind. The balance, the other 35% or so, are buying with the intent of filling the pantry or filling up the fridge. So that is the dominant mindset of the past. But this occasion that we're talking about here, the 65%, this does vary. I mean, it could be meal related. It could be lunch, it could be dinner, it could be event related, it could be all manner of things. But the point is that it's there and it's real and it's now. The second piece is all about shopping for other people. More than 6 out of every 10 shoppers who sets foot in a grocery store now will end up buying for people other than themselves. So this actually has quite a number of implications, but there are a couple right now that are top of mind. The first is the effect that this has on the need for layouts to speak to the need you're trying to satisfy. And the second one is about the needs to be, you need to be extremely clear about how these shelves are laid out. If shoppers are buying for other people, they may not actually have a great deal of knowledge about the category that they're buying on behalf of someone else. The more times you have to pull out your phone to call home or to call the wife or to call the kids and say, what is this one I'm trying to find? I can't find it. Is this the right one? Is this one going to do for you? The more times you have to do that, the more frustrated you're going to be about your shopping experience. And that could be due to an out of stock problem, but it could also just as easily be due to a fact that the layout is poor. It doesn't help an inexperienced shopper in that category find what they've been asked to find. And the third one, and this is about 1 out of every 3 shoppers, so basically 1/3 of them, will be buying to either use or consume the product that they buy today, right now. Now, these shoppers are buying with a need in mind that is immediate. So price really isn't that much of a factor in their decision-making anywhere near what it is normally. They just want to walk out with that option that solves their problem or their need. But there's also a kicker to all of this as well. And that is that depending on your mindset or the next person's mindset, this same product or same category might be treated differently from one shopper to the next, from one day to the next, or even from 1 minute to the next. When shoppers are in this mindset, they're significantly more likely to find these highlighted factors here significantly more important. Authenticity is the first one there, which talks about the brand heritage or the brand story of the product. This is really about, a desire of the shopper to be familiar with the brand, to be reassured by it, to have a solid origin story or a heritage. The second one there, which is premium, this is not so much that there needs to be more expensive products available. It's more about the fact that the shoppers who are in this mindset, they want to be reassured that if they spend more for something, it's clear what the benefit is that they're going to get from spending that little bit extra money there. So, and the third one there is all about innovation. So this is about new products that actually have a point of difference. Now, this isn't about me toos. This isn't about innovating for the sake of it. This isn't about doing this because that's what's always happened in the category in the past. This is about demonstrating to the shopper that this new product actually has a raison d'etre. It has a reason for being. And of course, the other thing about this is that, a new product could be something they've never seen before. The shopper has never seen before. It could have been around for a long time, but they've just never seen it. So, increasing your distribution could also fit the bill here. Now, it's not a great leap of faith to say that the retailers or the categories or the brands that best talk to these kinds of mindsets in their pre-store comms or at shelf or on their packs, they're the ones who are most likely to win in this paradigm that's developing right in front of our eyes.
Now, this is, I've got to say, one of my favorites, Andrew, because now we're starting to create a profile for a specific occasion-based shopper, right? We're not just saying people shop more for an occasion, so let's do more of that in our comms. Now we're saying, here's that shopper, and here's what that message should look like and what it should include, and here's how we should go about conveying it in order to get the best traction.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is being done already. So it's not like we're saying that this is not actually happening anywhere in the world right now. It's happening overseas, it's happening here. So here's a couple of examples, both here and overseas. Firstly, just the top left-hand corner there, we've got New World, recipe of the week, right? So this is all talking to the dinner for tonight mindset. So this is helping the shopper to solve that issue of what is for dinner tonight. And, and the activation that I've seen at store for this is usually pretty solid too, because, it's usually quite prominent. It's usually at the front of store. There's a good amount of space that's usually allocated to each ingredient or meal component. I find this a really good example. And, Countdown does a similar thing as well. The second one down below there on the left-hand side there is Woolworths, their health aisle. So this is talking or tapping into the organic or free from or the health mindset that's very prominent right now. So this is basically giving over a specific aisle of the store to collect together all the products that have a health focus and also categorizing them with those buzzwords, like organic or, gluten-free or whatever. And, so they can capture the shopper who's in that mindset. So shoppers who are familiar with the layout now in Countdown, they know that this is their destination. So my only challenge for this one would possibly be that maybe for casual shoppers who don't necessarily shop at Woolworths that often, Countdown, I should say, don't shop there that often, do they actually know that this aisle exists? And maybe there should possibly be some prompts in the base category to point them in the right direction if it's no geolocation. But aside from that, it's a really good example of thinking, what should we do about really talking to this organic, to this free from mindset. And if we now look at the one in the middle, I love this one. This one is from Tesco's in the UK. So, this is all about the lead messaging on the pack not being about what it is. It's a curry, but I'll challenge you to actually find the word curry on there. It's buried amongst all the rest of it. The main messaging here is that this is for two people. So this is talking to the fact that buy me because I will feed two people. It's not buy me because I'm a great curry or I'm priced great. The messaging here, I think, is absolutely brilliant. This is how you should use your pack to convey the message that you want to convey. And the final one over there on the right-hand side in Woolworths Australia, this is all about men's grooming, right? So this is the buying for him mindset. Now, this came through an insight from one of our own case studies that we did with a client, was that women buying for men were confused and didn't know where to buy things. So making up a separate bay for men's grooming really helped. But what really drove it over the edge was the signposting, calling it men's grooming. And as soon as that happened, the conversion, the satisfaction just went off like a rocket. And the other banner, which this was not done in, followed suit as soon as they realized how good a situation this actually was. So What this really boils down to is that you need to think, well, possibly beyond traditional category management, because there's lots of shoppers buying with an occasion or a mindset in mind, and if they are, they're willing to pay more, and if they do, then this mindset comes potentially before the category in the decision making. So back in the 1980s, when category management was born, it was done to try and manage ranging, and it would recognize that shoppers thought category before they thought brand. But what if shoppers are now thinking more broadly than just category? So what if category management is too restrictive? So right now, as you can see, stores are starting to lay out their stores and starting to think about buying structures that go beyond this traditional category management thinking. I will say, though, there's a word of caution about this. This isn't about category management being dead, but this is about thinking about how can you use the tools at your disposal, shelf, pack, comms, to talk to the occasion that matters to your category, talk to the mindset that matters to your category.
And that's the ultimate takeout, I think, from that. Some very good, if you like, very good general examples of this trend. I can tell you for a fact, Andrew, I've bought that curry on more than one occasion from Tesco in the past. I
suspected as much. I'm
that kind of guy. There have also been other attempts at this that I've seen over the years in the UK, which let's say didn't land quite as well. And say it's fine to trial and do a kind of test and learn piece, but you don't have to guess. This is the point. You want to take in some solid evidence, and of course, this is where you can make it specific, Andrew, and you start to point to specific opportunities category by category, so you're not shooting in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so here's just some examples for dinner on the left-hand side there, and for a special event on the right. So, the ones for dinner, they all make sense. And, you look at all those and go, yeah, sure, okay, I get it, because, they're cuts of protein. There's mince in there. There's pasta sauce in there. There's frozen fish in there. So, yeah, so that all makes sense. But just think of it from this point of view, though. How well does your category talk to this occasion at shelf or on your pack, or even in your advertising? It's, is it something that you've even considered talking about? For dinner, I would hope that you are, but the point is that if you're not, then there's an obvious connection there that maybe you're not possibly talking enough about, because, sometimes the shopper just won't make that connection. And the other thing as well is that when you start talking about things on the right-hand side there for special event, are these special event categories actually being talked about in terms of the event that they can be used for? Or is the messaging about stocking up? I mean, there's pantry or what you would call staple categories in there for sure, like cream or like sugar or like tea. But tea is the 6th highest category bought for a special event. Is the messaging on tea, I'm not picking on any tea suppliers out there, but is the messaging about tea all about the fact that this is just, buy tea because you like to drink it? Or are you actually talking about a special event that shoppers actually buy tea for? And here's a couple more examples here. This is about for partner, or buying for a partner or buying for lunch. Now, for partner is a really important one, right? Because as I've already mentioned, when you're buying on behalf of somebody else, some different factors start to come into play. So, for example, jams and spreads. It's not about the type of jam that you like. It's the type of jam that you're buying for your partner or for your family. So they don't care if you like raspberry. They want plum. If you don't come back with the right kind of plum, there's going to be some conversations had. So the shelf really needs to work for these categories, because they are more likely than not to be bought by somebody who actually isn't the end user of the product. And even for lunch, some of the stuff is actually about challenging some of those established ways of thinking about the category, like I mentioned with tea, for example. So okay, deli meats, prepackaged deli chicken, soup, they are categories that definitely do talk about being bought for lunch. But hot chicken, the association with hot chicken is a good one, because that's normally more thought about as being a dinner option, but it's the 10th highest category where it's bought for lunch. Do stores actually make sure they have a hot chicken supply, which is really ramped up at 12 o'clock? Or do they focus on the dinner run? It's all about this understanding, how can you talk about these categories in a different way to change that narrative about how people just assume that they're being bought. So one of the factors I have mentioned quite a bit to this point is that, do this through the mechanics that you control. So how you talk about your products pre-store, what you say on the pack, what you can say about things at shelf, right? So changing the entire store around to lay things out by mission rather than category probably a bit of a step too far at this stage. I think you'd agree with me on that one, David. Right now, it's all about talking about the canvas which you have at your disposal to talk about the mindset, and that's your brand. And we all know that brands make up the vast majority of sales in grocery. We do know that in our survey that 83% of all shoppers have bought a brand. Only 17% have bought a private label. So we know brands are important, and we know that they do things, brand shoppers do things a bit differently to private label, because shoppers who buy brands, they're more sticky. They're 11% more likely to plan to buy a specific brand. If they're a branded shopper, they're much more likely to plan to buy a specific brand than private label shoppers are. And branded shoppers are far more likely, 10% more likely, to be loyal to their favorite brand, i.e. they are not as willing to switch. If you get a shopper into a brand, they're more likely to stick around. So that's your canvas. How can you use it? And why is that important? Because you control it.
That's a very high, I must say, very high proportion of shoppers in New Zealand that are buying brand versus private label, and you've got this stickiness differential, Andrew. And then you look at this slide and you say, well, there's a challenge here then in that case, surely.
Yeah, there is a challenge in here, but there's also an opportunity in this too. The challenge that we have here is that shoppers of branded products, their levels of satisfaction are significantly lower than private label across every metric that we track. This isn't just about price, which is what you probably would expect. Now, I wouldn't expect private label price satisfaction to be lower than branded price satisfaction, but that's just a given. But for it to be lower on product, for it to be lower on assortment, which is like range or innovation, to be lower on in-store execution, that's pretty significant. These private label shoppers, they are much more happier than branded shoppers, significantly more so. Brands are where the majority of the sales happen, but it's also where the majority of the discontent lies. Now, maybe that's because we aren't talking enough about mindset through the canvas that we can control, our brands. Maybe we have moved on from that 1980s model of category management. We're just not talking enough about the mission, the occasion, the mindset. Tesco's curry, it's not about the curry. It's about the I am being used for two people. I am being bought for two people. Private label, they have that specific set of boxes they need to tick. Price is obviously the big one there. But the point is that private label even does the non-price pieces well.
Yeah, which, when you've made the point very clearly, that's not necessarily what you'd have expected. I think that we talk about categories playing a specific role for shoppers, and that depends on the shopper. And very much the same case in terms of brands. Brands are here to do a specific thing. They perform a specific role. So if there is an opportunity, changing that focus may not be such a bad thing, because shoppers clearly on this evidence want to see some improvements. They want to see something different in different ways across different categories, but they're looking for more from their branded options.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that as a challenge that the shoppers are issuing to brand owners to talk about these things better, to improve the messaging that is going out there, to use that, like I've said it before a few times, to use the canvas that is at their disposal, the brand owner's disposal, to talk about the things that matter to these shoppers. And that is really what this is all about in terms of the three things that we need to take out of this. Is you've got lots of tools at your disposal, so use those to talk to the need. So align your shelf. Obviously the shelf is not necessarily yours, but you can influence what happens at shelf to a large extent. Use your pack. Use the way that you talk to shoppers through the comms to the shopper. Use those things to align with the mission, the occasion, or the mindset that best suits your category. If your category is all about price, then fine, it's all about price. But if it's about dinner, if it's about a special event, it's about being bought for others, talk to that through the canvas that you can control. And also, you want to tap into these emerging trends, the health, dinner, buying for now, even buying for others as well. If your category is aligned with that specific need, then consider doing things differently. Consider mixing it up, because the old way is not necessarily the best way for what should be happening now and in the future. There might be some cases where it is, but there's going to be a lot of categories where doing things differently is going to be to your benefit. And the final piece, which we just spoke about, is you need to be aware of the role that your brand plays. So we've seen private label, it's done better at Total Grocery. Now, I'm not saying that is it should be the way things are, but obviously it's being done better now. So as a brand owner, is that what you necessarily want? So how is your brand being perceived That's what really matters here. Are you delivering to those needs? And are you possibly using all those tools, all that canvas that you have at your disposal to make that messaging really, really clear?
All right. Lovely, lovely recap. Thank you, Andrew. 3 very clear things to take away. And that wraps up part 2 of the 2021 New Zealand State of the Nation series. If you're interested in how to define value in your category, make sure you take a look at part 1 of this series. If you're focused on how to better serve the needs of online shoppers in your category, then head to part 3. And of course, if you have any questions about how you can find growth by putting shoppers at the heart of your conversation, just drop Andrew a line.